Two brand-new patrol officers spot a lone black man walking under the streetlights. Both instantly crack up. "Holy crap! Chase, look at that! A black dude in Maple Ridge at midnight." Officer Logan Myers kills the cruiser's engine. "Guess Christmas showed up early." He climbs out, flashlight leveled like a weapon. "Hey you! Hands where I can see them! This neighborhood's for millionaires, not guys who look like you." Maurice Green stops in his tracks and slowly raises both hands. 66 years old, voice calm as a courtroom. "Good evening, officers. I live here, 4520 Maple Drive. I've owned the place for 27 years. Chris Tate snorts with laughter. "Hear that, Logan? Says he lives here, a black man in Maple Ridge." Logan steps closer, beam in Mo's face. "Id, now, or I'm treating you like what you look like, a prowler in the wrong zip code." "I left my wallet at the restaurant," Mo replies. Logan laughs like he's heard the oldest joke on earth. "Of course you did. Another broke black guy with a story." 200 yards away, Chief Carmen Delgado drops her champagne flute. Through the Hendersons' front window, the city's top cop sees everything. She kicks off her heels and bolts out the door. She knows that face, Maurice Green. The two rookies putting hands on him have absolutely no idea who he is. They don't see a federal judge. They see an older black man in weekend clothes. They see a soft target, an easy stat to brag about over beers. They don't see 3 decades on the appellate bench. They don't see over 10,000 opinions issued. They don't see the jurist other judges secretly call when they're stuck on hard cases. Maurice Green has put dirty cops behind bars, overturned wrongful convictions, rewritten chunks of American law with carefully chosen words. 7 years ago, he authored a blistering opinion in a landmark police accountability case. The decision set, half the city on fire, figuratively and almost literally. Police unions despised him. Talk radio turned his name into a curse word. But his ruling forced policy changes in a dozen states. New training, stronger oversight, actual consequences for misconduct. The two rookies facing him now, Logan Myers and Chris Tate, sat through academies built around that decision. Tonight, they are about to ignore every rule it created. Tonight, Maurice Green doesn't look like any judge on the evening news. He's in a soft polo shirt, well-worn chinos, broken-in leather loafers. 10 minutes ago, he walked out of his 36th anniversary dinner. Bellucci's on Main, best Italian joint in the city. His wife Lillian looks stunning in her emerald dress. 36 years married, and he still wonders how he deserved her. She took the car home. He chose to walk 15 minutes through quiet streets, breathing warm summer air. His wallet sits on a back corner table at Bellucci's right now, forgotten in the flurry of goodbyes with owner Marco Bellucci, who greets them by name. His phone lies on the kitchen counter at home next to the mail. He wanted a single, uninterrupted night. No buzzing notifications, no briefs, no emergency motions, just one evening off from everyone needing something. One night, that's all he asked. Now 2 rookies block his route to his own front door, 50 feet away. The house he purchased a generation ago. The house where he watched his son, Andre, grow from a lanky teenager into a formidable civil rights lawyer. The house where grandchildren cover the refrigerator with crayon masterpieces every Sunday. Meanwhile, Chief Carmen Delgado is tearing down Maple Drive barefoot, dress flapping around her knees. First Latina police chief this city has ever had. 31 years in uniform. Started in a beat-up patrol car. climbed every rung: detective, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, deputy chief, finally the top. It was brutal. The department never welcomed women, and it certainly never welcomed Latinos. She earned every promotion twice, once in work, once in blood. 16 years ago, as a sergeant, she testified in a civil rights case against her own department. Command tried to muzzle her. Fellow officers hinted at payback. She told the truth. Anyway, one judge believed her. One judge cut through the lies and intimidation. Maurice Green. He saved her career and made her current badge even possible. She has never forgotten his eyes on that day. She recognized them again tonight through a picture window 200 yards away, framed in flashing red and blue, being hassled by her own officers. Her lungs already burn. Bare feet slap asphalt. A jagged shard slices her heel, leaving a dotted trail of blood. She doesn't know if she'll reach him in time. She knows one thing with bone-deep certainty. Those two rookies have no idea what kind of storm they just called down. Logan Myers circles Maurice Green like a shark catching the scent of blood. He's savoring this. You can hear it in his voice. The swagger, the lazy cruelty, the easy belief that he owns the night. So let me get this straight, Pops. He blasts the flashlight straight into Mo's eyes. You expect me to believe you live in Maple Ridge in a $1 million house and just forgot your wallet at some fancy restaurant? Mo keeps his hands high, voice even. That's correct, officer. Bellucci's on Main Street. The owner's name is Marco Bellucci. We've been friends 15 years. Call him. He'll verify everything. Call him? Logan sneers. You hear this, Chris? He wants me to play secretary, making calls to confirm some random black guy really belongs in the ritzest neighborhood in the city. Chris laughs from his post near the cruiser. His phone's been recording since they rolled up, capturing everything. Maybe he's the housekeeping, Chris suggests, or pool guy, something like that. Yeah, Logan says, stepping close enough that Mo can see razor burn on his jaw. You work for one of these families? Mow lawns? Clean windows? Haul trash? Maurice's jaw tenses, but his tone stays measured. 66 years of practice. 66 years of scenes just like this. In shops, airports, parking lots, sidewalks. Every black man in America learns this choreography young. I own my home on this street, officer. I've paid these property taxes for 27 years. I've served on the homeowners board. I've been at every block party. My wife Lillian and I host the 4th of July cookout in our backyard every year. 4th of July cookout, Logan repeats, mocking the cadence. Listen to this, Chris. He really committed to the role. Got the whole fantasy mapped out. Wife, parties, barbecues. Maybe he's been casing the block for months, Chris adds. Learning names, details, trying to blend in. There you go, Logan nods. Smart criminal. Dumb enough to get caught. A porch light snaps on. Then another, 3 more. Curtain shift. Silhouettes appear in windows as the disturbance grows too loud to ignore. Ms. Florence Abernathy steps onto her porch. 82, silver hair pulled tight, posture straight as a flagpole. Widow of Senator Harold Abernathy, who served 3 terms before a stroke took him 9 years ago. She's lived beside the Greens for 19 years, watched Andre go from law student to renowned civil rights attorney, held Lillian's hand at Gallus, debated Supreme Court rulings over sweet tea. She knows exactly who's being detained on that sidewalk, and her stomach drops. She wants to storm over and shout his title. Tell those cocky young men whose wrists they're about to ruin. Tell them they're humiliating a federal judge and detonating their careers in the same breath. But experience grips her shoulder. She's seen how men like Logan react when challenged in public. Pride kicks in, tempers spike, violence follows. So Florence chooses something smarter. She lifts her phone, hits record, holds it high. She angles the glowing red light toward the officers, making sure they see it, and waits. Because through her window, she already saw Chief Carmen Delgado sprinting from the Henderson's place. Help is coming. Florence just has to stretch the clock. On the street, Logan's patience is thinning. He thumbs his radio. Unit 52, this is Officer Myers. I've got a suspicious person on Maple Drive. Black male, late 60s, no ID, refusing lawful commands, requesting backup. The light shoots into the ether, refusing to cooperate. Maurice has answered every question without raising his voice. He's calmly offered his name, address, social security number, offered to walk them to his front door 50 feet away. But Logan's version is now official, transmitted, logged. I am not refusing anything, officer, Mo says. Hand still raised, tone level. My name is Maurice Green. My address is 4520 Maple Drive. I've invited you to accompany me to my house where my wife Lillian can confirm my identity. Walk you to your house? Logan barks out a laugh, harsh and theatrical. So you can bolt? Grab a weapon? Call your buddies to jump us? You think I'm an idiot? I think there's a misunderstanding, Mo starts. The only thing I'm clear on is this, Logan mutters, stepping so close. Maurice can smell stale coffee on his breath, see the mean delight in his eyes. I don't care what script you memorized. I don't care what fiction you're selling. I don't care about your lies. He drops his voice to a poisonous whisper meant for Mo alone, forgetting about the body-worn camera catching every syllable. Black folks don't belong in places like Maple Ridge. Not at midnight. Not at lunchtime. Not never. People like you should stick to your own streets, your own side of town. Maurice looks him dead in the eye, still steady, still unbroken. Officer, I want you to truly remember this moment. Logan grins wider. Oh, trust me, old-timer. I'll be telling this story for years. The night I busted some uppity black guy pretending to be rich. Logan has no clue those words will echo in courtrooms, play on news loops, wind up quoted in history books. No idea that 150 yards away, a woman in a shredded cocktail dress is running faster than she did in any academy drill. Her feet are slick with blood. Her lungs feel shredded. Her thighs are on fire. But every heartbeat carries her closer. Every stride is another second stolen back. Not yet, she thinks. Just hold, just a little longer. Logan has made up his mind. The show is over. Okay, Pops, fun time's done. Turn around. Hands on the hood. Maurice doesn't move. Officer, you've articulated no reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. You lack any legal foundation for... I said turn around. Logan's hand drops to his taser. His finger hovers over the trigger. Do it now, or I light you up like a Christmas tree. Maurice's gaze falls to the weapon. He glances at Chris's still recording phone, at the neighbors' windows, crowded with anxious faces, at Florence's porch where her phone shines like a little red eye. He performs the grim calculus nearly every black man in America knows by heart. Resist and risk never making it home. Comply and maybe live to fight it later. He turns, places his palms flat on the cold hood of the cruiser. Logan holsters the taser and moves in behind him for the pat-down, hands already rough. The frisk is aggressive, punitive, Fingers jam into pockets, slide too far, linger too long. He slaps at ankles, knees, waistline, a performance lasting far beyond any policy's guidance. No wallet, no phone, no ID. Logan crows, almost giddy, like a kid discovering a toy he can break. Just lies and excuses. My wallet's at Bellucci's. My phone's in my kitchen. I can... Enough, Logan snaps. He reaches for his cuffs. Metal catches the streetlight, glinting. You have the right to shut your mouth. Use it! Click. Steel bites into Maurice's left wrist. Too tight on purpose. Click. The right wrist locks. Judge Maurice, Mo Green, appellate court, 3 decades on the bench, over 10,000 decisions written, the man whose rulings reshaped police policy in 12 states, stands handcuffed on his own street. 50 feet from his porch, where Lillian is waiting with decaf, where finger-painted sons and stick-figure families crowd the fridge, where 36 years of shared life occupy every room. Chris, get over here. You'll want this. Chris walks up, phone still up, then flips to the front camera. Selfie mode. Logan slings an arm around Maurice's shoulders, mock-friendly, like they're neighbors laughing at a cookout. Say cheese, Grandpa! Flash. The photo freezes everything in one cruel frame. 2 grinning young officers, uniforms crisp. One 66-year-old black man in cuffs, posture dignified even now. Perfect, Logan says, snatching Chris's phone, admiring his work. This one's going straight in the group chat. What's the caption? Maybe caught this guy faking it in Maple Ridge. Another one who thought he could sneak in, he muses. Something like that. Chris is already typing, adding laughing emojis, champagne bottles. The guys are going to lose it. Ruiz owes me $20. Swore we wouldn't pull anything good tonight. Their ladder rings out, ugly and loud, bouncing off carefully manicured facades, contaminating the warm air. Logan grips Maurice's arm hard enough to bruise. All right, Grandpa. Field trip time. You can call that make-believe lawyer from lockup. They march him towards the back door. Chris swings the rear door open, revealing the cramped cage where suspects sit. Watch your head, old man. Wouldn't want you getting hurt before booking. Logan's palm presses between Maurice's shoulders, pushing him toward the opening. Officers, that's far enough. Florence Abernathy strides off her porch, nightgown and robe forgotten, moving with the authority of someone who once hosted cabinet secretaries in her living room. Logan pauses. Maurice is half-folded toward the seat. Ma'am, this is official business. Step away or I'll arrest you for obstruction. That man is my neighbor, she says, voice ringing. I've known him for 19 years. His name is Maurice Green. He lives in that house right there. She points to the white colonial with navy shutters 50 feet away, porch light blazing. Logan doesn't bother looking. Lady, everyone in rich neighborhoods knows each other. Doesn't prove a thing. He could be staff. He could be some weirdo. He could be casing the block. He is not a criminal, Florence snaps. You are making a catastrophic mistake. A mistake you'll regret every remaining day in uniform. Only mistake I see is some old woman who doesn't know when to butt out, Logan says, turning back to Maurice and shoving harder. In you go. Florence catches movement in her peripheral vision. A figure sprinting up the street, dress shredded, bare feet pounding pavement. She has to stall a few more seconds. Officer, I am not finished addressing you, she declares. I demand your badge number. I demand contact information for your commanding officer. I am recording everything. I will be filing a formal complaint. Logan groans theatrically. Jesus. Chris, handle this crazy old bat. Don't you dare call me that, Florence snaps. And do not lay a hand on me. I am Florence Abernathy, widow of Senator Harold Abernathy, and I will have your badge before sunrise. 100 yards. 75. 50. Chief Carmen Delgado closes the distance, seeing it all now. The cruiser, the open door, Maurice bent forward. 30 yards. Her lungs are empty. Her legs feel hollow. She keeps running anyway. Her feet leave smeared, bloody prints. Something sharp is lodged in her heel. She'll deal with it later. 20 yards. Voices rise. Florence is sharp, furious. Carmen could kiss that woman for buying her time. 75 yards earlier, she'd spotted Maurice's face clearly. The man who once saved her from being pushed out of this department is now being shoved into the back of a squad car like a shoplifter. 50 yards. She could see the glint of handcuffs, and a red fog of anger rolled through her. These are her officers, her badge, her responsibility. 30 yards. Chris is awkwardly trying to calm Florence down. Logan, the bulldog, turns back to Maurice. Enough circus, he mutters. Get in the car. He pushes harder. Maurice folds toward the opening. Carmen's field of vision shrinks. The tidy houses, street lamps, manicured hedges fall away. All that remains is the car, the man, the moment. Logan's hand is on the back of Maurice's head, guiding it down toward the doorframe in a practiced maneuver. Standard procedure when loading a suspect. Except Maurice is not a suspect. He is a target, a victim. 20 yards. She can see Logan's face now. Young, smug, lit up with cruel satisfaction. He has no idea what's about to land on him. Maurice's head is inches from disappearing inside. One more heartbeat, and the door swings shut. One more breath, and they'll be gone. 10 yards. Carmen's legs are jelly. Her lungs are torn. She drags in air anyway, summoning every ounce of authority she owns. She opens her mouth. The words gather like thunder, then detonate out of her chest. Stop! That man is a judge! 6 words. One ragged breath, an explosion. The sound hits Maple Drive like a concussion blast. Not spoken, not politely yelled, screamed. Each syllable a hammer blow, each word a commandment. Window panes tremble. Dogs erupt up and down the block. A car alarm shrieks somewhere nearby. The peaceful suburban night splits open like fabric under a blade. Logan's hand jerks away from Maurice's back. Pure instinct. The sound of unquestioned authority can do that to a person. Maurice straightens, slow and deliberate, stepping away from the car door. Dignity returns to his full height. Chris's phone slips from his fingers, clattering to the asphalt. The screen fractures. He doesn't notice. His face has gone paper white. Both officers freeze. No one talks. No one breathes. Porch lights glow on every house now. 1, 3, a dozen. Faces crowd windows, hands raise phones, recording, witnessing, documenting. The whole block holds its breath. One heavy second of silence, the kind that follows explosions and just precedes judgment. Chief Carmen Delgado stands 15 feet away. Her dress is shredded. Her bare feet are smeared with blood. Her chest heaves, but her voice comes out forged in steel. That man is Judge Maurice Green, United States Court of Appeals, 30 years on the bench. Logan's mouth opens, closes, opens again. No sound emerges. His brain is buffering, unable to load this new reality. She continues. He told you his name. He told you his address. And you laughed. Chris makes a choked noise, something between a so be and a groan. The truth is settling on him like concrete. He lives in that house. Carmen points toward the white colonial with navy shutters, porch light burning as it has for 27 years. The silence that follows is suffocating. Logan finally croaks out, "Who? Who are you?" Carmen reaches into the torn side of her dress and pulls a heavy badge from a pocket, gold catching the light. "I'm Chief Carmen Delgado," she says, holding it up. The city seal glints. "I'm your boss's boss." The words land like body blows. Logan's knees nearly give out. He grabs the cruiser's frame to stay upright. His complexion drains from pink to ash. Chris is openly crying now, tears streaming, nose running. "Oh God," he mutters. "Oh God, oh God." He repeats it like a broken prayer to no one in particular. Carmen walks past them. They don't move, don't breathe, don't dare. She steps up to Maurice Green. For a moment her voice softens, the steel sheathing replaced by something raw-edged and human. "Your Honor, I am so sorry." He meets her eyes, posture composed, dignity intact. 30 years of judicial temperament cannot be shattered by two foolish young men with badges. "Chief Delgado," he says gently, "you've nothing to apologize for." She shakes her head, pain etched on her face. "I should have gotten here sooner." "You arrived precisely when you needed to," he replies. He glances at the open car door, the cage. He came a breath away from entering. 1 second later, and I'd be inside that vehicle, hauled to a station, processed like any street corner suspect. Mugshot, fingerprints, another headline. "You spared me that. Thank you." She nods, but no relief comes. If anything, the guilt grows heavier. These are her officers, her culture, her responsibility. She turns back toward Logan and Chris. Her voice hardens again, dropping several degrees. This is the chief addressing dead careers. "Get those cuffs off him now!" Logan's hands tremble so violently he can't get purchase. He reaches for his key ring, drops it, curses under his breath, bends, picks it up, fumbles it again. "The cuffs," Carmen repeats, voice sharp enough to slice through stone. "Off now!" He finally manages to keep hold of the keys and staggers toward Maurice. His legs feel boneless. His vision swims. His brain chants, "This can't be happening," like a useless mantra. But it is. Every frame recorded, every word saved. Click. The metal around Maurice's left wrist springs open. Click. The right cuff follows. Maurice brings his hands forward, slow and unhurried, as if he's in his own courtroom again. He rubs each wrist. Angry red grooves already rise on his skin, marks from steel cinched too tight by reckless hands. He straightens fully, shoulders set, head high against the warm night. Porch lights still burn. Cameras still roll. The summer air, a few minutes ago soft and forgettable, now hums with the weight of consequences. Maurice can feel every set of eyes on him now, a whole cul-de-sac acting as silent jury. Somewhere, a sprinkler still hisses, absurdly normal. Chief Delgado turns slightly, sweeping the crowd, making sure every camera catches her face, her badge, her authority. "Officers Myers and Tate," she says, voice amplified by the stunned quiet, "you will keep your hands visible and remain exactly where you are." Not a suggestion, a command. Their shoulders lock, fear finally outranking bravado for the first time tonight. She steps closer to Maurice, lowering her voice so only he and the nearest microphones can hear. "Your Honor, medical attention, a ride home, anything you need is yours." He studies her for a heartbeat, seeing not the frantic woman who sprinted barefoot, but the young sergeant from years ago, trembling yet unbroken on a witness stand. "Right now," he answers, "what I need is for your department to show this neighborhood what accountability actually looks like, Chief. Tonight." Carmen nods once, decision made. She turns, projecting every inch of rank. Officer Tate, secure your phone on the hood of the vehicle. Officer Myers, turn around. Hands behind your head. Logan blinks, convinced he misheard. Chief, now, she cuts in, the single syllable cracking like a baton on concrete. He obeys on reflex, every muscle shaking. Florence watches, something like satisfaction flickering through her outrage as the balance of power on Maple Drive begins to tilt hard. Neighbors edge closer to their property lines, drawn as if by gravity. Porch steps fill, driveways sprout clusters of pajamas and robes. Someone whispers, "Did she say judge?" Someone else, "Federal judge." The words ripple outward like thrown stones in still water. Chris does as he's told, setting his cracked phone carefully on the cruiser, hands visibly shaking. For the first time since the stop began, he seems to realize this isn't just a joke gone a little too far. "Dispatch," Carmen calls into her radio, never taking her eyes off the scene. "This is Chief Delgado. Mark this location. I want internal affairs and a duty captain en route. Code 2. Static. Then a stunned acknowledgement. Logan's mouth opens again. "Chief, we didn't know who he was. He looked black in a rich neighborhood after dark," she finishes coolly. "That was enough for you, apparently." The truth lands heavier than any pair of handcuffs ever could. Maurice stands quietly, rolling his wrists, feeling the sting slowly sharpen into H. He says nothing, not yet. Years on the bench taught him when to speak and when silence convicts louder. Florence steps closer to him, still filming. "Maurice, are you all right?" she asks. "I'm standing," he answers softly. "That's more than some men in my position get." The words hang there, a grim truth that makes more than one neighbor swallow hard and look away slowly. Carmen turns back to the two officers. "Face the car," she orders. They comply, movements clumsy. She pats each of them down with brisk, professional motions, more for form than suspicion. But the symbolism is razor-sharp, the watchers being watched. "You will surrender your badges and service weapons to the duty captain when he arrives," she continues. "Effective immediately, you are both relieved of street duty pending investigation." Chris makes a strangled sound that might almost be a sob. Logan stares straight ahead, jaw clenched so tight it trembles. In his mind, the night rewinds in ugly flashes. The jokes, the photo, the smug captions he thought would kill in the group chat. "Chief, you can't ruin our lives over a misunderstanding," he finally blurts. Carmen's eyes harden. "You didn't just misunderstand, Officer Myers. You broadcast your contempt, recorded your bias, and placed cuffs on an innocent man on his own street. That's not confusion. That's misconduct, plain misconduct." Phones keep rolling. Somewhere, a neighbor quietly live streams. Comments begin stacking up in real time, little bubbles of outrage and disbelief. The name Maurice Green starts traveling far beyond Maple Ridge. Carmen knows this will be everywhere by dawn, maybe sooner. A career-making scandal or career-ending, depending on the city's appetite for truth. She squares her shoulders anyway. "Judge Green," she says, "I would like your permission to have a medic evaluate you here before you go inside tonight, sir." He considers, then nods. "I'll allow it," he says, a hint of dry humor threading through the formality. "Though I suspect my pride took the worst injury." A few neighbors actually huff out nervous laughs, the sound brittle but real. Carmen keys her radio again, requesting medical with a steadier tone now. As she speaks, Maurice's gaze drifts to the cruiser's rear door, still hanging open. The dark interior waiting like a mouth that almost swallowed him whole tonight. He imagines the alternate timeline, the one where Carmen didn't see, where Florence stayed inside, where no porch lights came on. Paperwork stamped, charges invented, headlines spun. Another black man accused of resisting in a neighborhood where he pays more in taxes than either of these rookies make in a year. He exhales slowly. "Chief," he says quietly, "I trust you'll preserve every second of tonight's recordings." She meets his eyes. "Every frame, Your Honor. On my badge and name." Behind them, Chris finally finds his voice. "Judge Green," he stammers, not turning around. I'm sorry. We didn't mean—" Maurice cuts him off gently. "Officer, I've spent 30 years listening to people explain what they didn't mean. Intent doesn't erase impact." Chris flinches, like he's been slapped. Carmen doesn't rescue him. If anything, she lets the silence stretch, forcing the words to sink in as deeply as the red marks still circling Maurice's wrists and pride tonight. Painfully, sirens wail faintly in the distance as more units respond, not knowing yet that the most important work is already happening in the hush between words. A medic truck turns onto Maple Ridge, lights turning the manicured lawns blue and red. Carmen holds up a hand to slow them. "He's conscious, breathing, talking," she calls. "No rush. We're preserving the scene." The medic team approaches gently, taking in the sight of a judge standing where a prisoner nearly stood. One of them, a middle-aged paramedic with tired eyes, addresses Maurice directly. "Sir, I'm Luis. Mind if I check those wrists and your blood pressure?" Maurice offers his arms without protest. "Of course. You'll find my pressure higher than usual." A ripple of rueful chuckles travels through the watching crowd. As the cuff inflates around his arm, he glances at Carmen. "You realize, Chief, that every lawyer in this city will know this story by lunchtime." "Yes, Your Honor," she replies. "And every officer," she adds, "will be re-watching these body cam videos in training for years." Logan makes a faint choking sound at that, the future he imagined for himself crumbling in a single sentence. Florence lowers her phone at last, satisfied she has enough. "Maurice," she says, gentler now, "Lillian must be worried sick. Let me call her." He nods, suddenly exhausted. "Thank you, Florence. Tell her I'm coming home. I just had to finish some business at the curb first." The medic finishes, pronounces him bruised but stable, and steps back. Carmen gives Maurice a questioning look, silently asking if he's ready. He takes one last survey of the street. The gathered neighbors, the flashing lights, the two rigid officers facing their own cruiser. "Chief Delgado," he says, voice carrying clearly, "I trust you to handle the administrative side." Then, louder to the crowd, "Go home, get some rest, but don't forget what you saw here. Any of it, ever." One by one, porch lights click off as people retreat indoors, phones still warm in their hands. They'll text, they'll post, they'll replay shaky videos under kitchen lights. Maple Ridge will never feel quite as insulated again. Carmen steps beside Maurice as he finally turns toward his front walk. For a moment, they move in parallel, judge-in-chief, survivor, and witness. "I'll be in touch tomorrow," she promises. "We'll take your statement, formally." "I look forward to it," he answers. They stop at the base of his porch steps. The white colonial with navy shutters glows softly, the same as it has for 27 years, yet somehow different tonight. Maurice rests a hand on the railing, feeling the familiar grain of the wood under his fingers, the faint throb still pulsing in his wrists. Behind him, squad lights spin, Careers unravel. Reports begin. He inhales once, deeply, then climbs toward his front door as the night in Maple Ridge changes. I thank you, Chief Delgado. I'm sorry it took me so long, Your Honor. You arrived at exactly the right second, Chief, Maurice replies. I won't forget what you did. Carmen pivots to face the two men in uniform, her officers. The phrase tastes like ash in her mouth now. Her next words roll down the block. Every porch light burns. Every screen is up, cameras rolling, neighbors pressed to windows. This moment is being carved into digital stone. It will never quietly disappear. Do either of you grasp what you've done tonight? Carmen's voice hits every doorway. Logan tries to answer, but the word sticks. Chief, we didn't know. He never said he was a... Maurice told you his name? She cuts in. He told you this was his street, his house. You decided that wasn't enough. No ID, so you chained him. Her boots crunch glass as she steps closer. You posed for photos. You joked about him. You labeled him a criminal. You called him a thug, Carmen says, low but deadly clear. You declared black men don't belong in wealthy zip codes. Logan's mouth opens, closes. Nothing comes out. I heard your radio transmission, Officer Myers, refusing to cooperate. Judge Green answered every single thing you asked, politely, precisely. She leans in until he can't avoid her eyes. And your body cameras? They heard everything too. Every snicker, every slur, every time you weaponize that badge. Internal Affairs is going to adore this. Logan's knees sag. He catches himself on the cruiser door, barely upright. Chris's sobs grow louder, words tumbling uselessly. I didn't mean, Logan said we should keep the video. Carmen is already dialing. Internal Affairs sits on her favorites list. She's never hit it with hands still shaking. This is Chief Delgado. I need the entire IA squad at 4520 Maple Drive now. She listens a beat. 2 officers. Wrongful detention, assault, false report, civil rights violations. Another pause. Yes, the victim's a federal appellate judge. The line goes dead quiet. Carmen can practically hear the person on the other end recalculating their life choices. You heard me correctly, she says evenly. Send everyone now. She ends the call, slips the phone away, and focuses back on the rookies. Badges, sidearms, on the hood, both of you, now! Logan doesn't move at first, brain buffering the command. The silence around him sharpens. Now! Officer Myers! Her tone brooks no delay. Either your hands move, or I move them for you. His fingers finally obey. He unclips the badge he once polished before every shift, the emblem he waved around so easily tonight. He sets it on the metal. Clink. His duty weapon follows, the gun he rested his palm on like a threat. Next to them, Chris adds his own badge, another dull clink, then his pistol. 4 small objects gleam under the streetlights, representing academy graduations, late-night shifts, childhood dreams, and 15 minutes of cruelty that burn those futures straight to ash. You are both suspended, without pay, effective immediately, Carmen announces. Her voice has the finality of a gavel. You'll surrender your department aides to Internal Affairs. You will not talk to anyone about tonight, including each other, except your attorneys. You will not set foot inside any precinct unless ordered in writing, and you will not contact Judge Green or any member of his family ever. Am I absolutely understood? Logan whispers, barely audible. Yes, Chief. Chris manages a choked, yes, ma'am. She studies them for a long, unforgiving beat. 24 and 23, 14 months on the job for one, 9 for the other. 2 kids who once posed proudly in Academy photos, who told their families they wanted to protect people. Now they stand stripped of authority because of their own mouths, their own hands, their own glee in another man's humiliation. You had chances all night to correct course, she says quietly. Every single turn you picked the worst possible path. Judge Green was calm, cooperative, respectful. He offered explanations you never bothered to verify because you'd already written the story in your heads. Black man, expensive houses, must be trouble. That's why we're here, Chief Delgado continues. Not a misunderstanding, a choice. She steps back like she's done watching them breathe. Get out of my sight. Go home. You do not leave your residences. You wait for ECA to call. They will, soon, and they will have many questions. They shuffle off down the block, moving like men twice their age. Chris still crying openly, Logan stumbling as if drunk. The entire street tracks their retreat, eyes, lenses, live streams. Only when they're several houses away does Florence finally lower her phone. 8 straight minutes, she says, checking the timer. Every frame, every word. Got it all, Carmen. Every single second. Thank you, Ms. Abernathy. Carmen exhales. Now that the adrenaline's ebbing, exhaustion rushes in, heavy and merciless. Thank you for buying me time, Carmen adds, voice rough. Florence tucks the phone carefully into her robe pocket. I saw you sprinting, Chief. I've hosted senators. I know what panic looks like. You needed a few more moments, so I took them for you. Her gaze slides to Maurice, to the angry welts on his wrists, to the steady fire in his eyes. Men like this are worth standing in the street for, she says simply. Maybe worth bleeding for. The front door of the white colonial opens at last. Lillian Green steps onto the porch, housecoat thrown over her dress. She takes in the patrol car, the cluster of neighbors, the chief's bloody bandages, her husband standing with reddened wrists. Maurice, she rushes to him, arms flinging around his shoulders, clutching like she'll never release him. What happened? Are you hurt? What did they do? He wraps her close, breathing in lavender and familiarity. I'm here, Lil. I'm okay now. He glances down at his wrists, where purple shadows are already surfacing beneath the skin. The bruises will fade. The memory will not. 32 minutes later, Internal Affairs rolls in. Not a lone investigator, but a convoy. A 6-person team climbs out. Supervisors, senior detectives, the department's professional skeptics. They know whose porch they're walking toward. They know cameras are everywhere. They know this won't stay local. This is the kind of case that can crack a department in half. Body cameras are unclipped with unusual care, sealed inside evidence bags before anyone can even think about tampering. Warrants arrive electronically for phones. Devices are surrendered, logged, tagged, notebooks open. Witness statements begin on the spot. Judge Maurice Green sits on his own porch swing while it all unfolds, finally under his own roofline. Lillian never releases his hand. 36 years of marriage, and she's gripping him like she almost lost him on a random Thursday night in June. Their son, Andre, barrels up Maple Drive at 12:47 a.m., tires crunching gravel. He made the trip from his downtown condo in record time, speedometer flirting with 90 the whole way. Andre Green, civil rights attorney, top of his class at Yale, built his career on suing departments for exactly this sort of ugliness. He never imagined he'd be drafting pleadings on behalf of his own father. Dad, he says, pulling Maurice into a fierce embrace, I am so sorry. This isn't on you, son, Maurice replies. squeezing back. You didn't put those cuffs on me. Andre pulls away, just enough to look him in the eye. It's on them, and on the machine that trained them and kept them comfortable. The department, the culture, the complacency, that's who's going to answer for tonight. His jaw is set like granite, eyes burning. I've spent years fighting this in other cities, Dad. They picked the wrong family to try this on. Carmen approaches the porch, bandages wrapped around her feet like crude boots. Someone brought her flats from a squad locker, but she's left them sitting on the curb. The sting keeps her awake, sharp. Your Honor, she begins, I can't say sorry enough for what you went through. Maurice shakes his head. Carmen, you stopped it. I should have been quicker. I should have. You ran 200 yards barefoot in the dark, he reminds her. You arrived at the exact heartbeat that mattered. 2 seconds later, and I'd have been locked in that cage, he continues, nodding toward the cruiser. Hauled downtown like any other suspect, processed, mugshot in the system, fingerprints in some database I helped regulate. He flexes his hands gently. You spared me that indignity. That's not a small thing, Chief. That's everything. She swallows hard, guilt still coiled in her chest, but there's a flicker of relief now too. Proof that all her sprinting meant something tangible tonight. Inside a mobile command van parked crooked along the curb, the case is already assembling itself, layer by ugly layer. Screens flicker to life. Evidence bags pile on a folding table. Laptops hum. What starts as a night's work for internal affairs begins to look like an avalanche waiting to bury people. Layer 1. Body cam footage. The lead IA investigator, Lieutenant Dana Rios, 15 years on the unit, cues up Logan Myers' video first and hits play without comment. She hears it all immediately. A black guy in Maple Ridge at midnight. Christmas came early. Dana watches Maurice's response. Measured, respectful. Good evening, officers. I live here. 4520 Maple Drive. She watches the smirks, the dismissive laughter. The pat-down goes on, far rougher than training films. She notes at least 4 separate policy breaches before the cuffs even appear. Then the clicks. 2 sharp sounds on a man who hasn't broken a single law except walking while black. Then she reaches the quiet part that was never supposed to be heard. Logan leaning in, lips near Morris's ear. Black men don't belong in places like this. Not at midnight, not at noon, not ever. Stick to your own side of town. Dana stops the video with a jab of her finger. That isn't just policy violation, she tells her team. That's a confession on his own camera. Classic racial discrimination, straight from the source, preserved in high definition. She restarts the clip. The setup for the selfie plays out like bad satire, Logan's arm slung around the judge, both rookies grinning like they've bagged a trophy. Send that to the group chat. Caption it something like, "Caught this black guy pretending he lives here." One of Dana's colleagues grimaces. That's intent, right there. Planned humiliation. They weren't scared. They were entertaining themselves. Another investigator adds quietly, "That's exhibit for a federal civil rights case, if I've ever seen one." Chris Tate's phone. The tech specialist cracks it in under 5 minutes. The passcode turns out to be his birthday, of course. The group thread sits right there, still open, like a confession written in memes and emojis. At 10:58 p.m., the selfie drops. 2 grinning officers, 1 handcuffed black man. Reactions flood in, little cartoon faces and clapping hands. Dana scrolls, jaw tightening. Other officers, same department. They talk like they're passing around hunting photos after a weekend trip. LOL. Nice snag, man. Teach him what happens when they wander into the rich blocks. Did he cry? Bet he cried. Make sure he remembers his place. That's what happens when you act uppity, one less thug on the streets. Message after message scrolls past Dana's eyes, each one uglier than the last. It's not just Logan and Chris. 18 names populate the chat. Months of photos. Dozens of black residents in cuffs turned into punchlines and trophies for a private audience. Got another one on 5th, somebody brags. Old guy swore he was a doctor. Sure you are, doc. Another message. Picked up this kid in Westwood. Dad supposedly owns a company. Yeah, right. Classic. Another black guy with a story. Dana exhales slowly. This isn't a couple of bad apples. It's a whole barrel gone sour. We're going to need a stack of warrants, she mutters. Phones, lockers, desktops. If they were this comfortable on text, imagine what's buried elsewhere. Layer 3. Neighbor footage. Florence Abernathy's video runs 8 minutes, 37 seconds unbroken. Wide frame catches everyone. Logan strutting, Chris filming, Maurice standing tall. Despite the cuffs, the ridiculous selfie, the laughter. Then Carmen comes barreling into view, barefoot, dress shredded, voice splitting the night. Stop! That man is a judge. The audio is crystal clear. You can almost feel the street jump when Logan jerks his hand away. Other neighbors hand over their clips. 6 angles total, each confirming the others. One video freezes on Chris's expression the instant Carmen flashes her badge. Pure, unfiltered terror. Another catches Logan's legs giving out, him grabbing the cruiser like it's the only solid thing left in his world. A third zooms tight on Maurice's wrists as the cuffs come off, red grooves against brown skin, his face composed, unbroken. There's no editing this away, no clever spin, no friendly reporter. The neighborhood became the camera crew, and the raw footage is devastating. Layer 4. Paperwork. Bellucci's receipt. Timestamped 9:48 p.m. Table for 2. Anniversary tiramisu on the house. Credit card slip bearing Maurice and Lillian Green's names. Home security video from the Greens' doorbell camera showing Maurice leaving at 7:30 p.m., walking toward Main Street in that same polo and loafers. He never shows up on the returning feed. Phone logs confirm his cell stayed on the kitchen counter all evening, exactly where he said he'd left it for one unplugged night. The next morning, Bellucci's staff finds a leather wallet tucked under a chair. They call the number inside before IA even has to ask. ID cards, everything intact. It goes into evidence with an apologetic note and a generous gift card. Meanwhile, city clerks pull 37 years of property tax records, utility bills, voter rolls, driver's license history. Every document tells the same story. Maurice and Lillian Green, long-term Maple Ridge homeowners. Every claim he made that night stands up like steel. By midnight, someone leaks. In the era of screenshots and instant uploads, nothing this explosive stays bottled. By 6 a.m., national outlets are running breaking banners. Federal judge cuffed outside own home. Officers laughed, posed for selfie. Police chief sprinted barefoot to intervene. Clips from Florence's video play on a loop. The soundbite, "Stop! That man is a judge!" becomes shorthand for the entire story. Talk shows, podcasts, timelines, office break rooms. Everyone suddenly has an opinion about Maple Ridge. The numbers climb obscenely fast. 15 million views by lunchtime, 30 million by dinner, 50 million by the next sunrise. The selfie metastasizes across the internet. 2 beaming officers, 1 cuffed judge, a perfect snapshot of arrogance and endurance. Memes sprout, Then serious think pieces. People zoom in on Maurice's expression, on the grooves on his wrists, on Logan's grin. No one forgets the picture. It becomes the face of the case, the image their grandkids will someday study. Internet detectives identify Logan and Chris before the department even finalizes its press release. Old Academy photos, tagged posts, congratulatory comments from relatives. Nothing online truly disappears. Their social accounts go private, but too late. Screenshots fill the void. The police union scrambles into damage control mode. Their spokesperson steps up to a podium, sweating under TV lights. This was an isolated incident involving a very small number of officers who do not reflect our department's core values, he insists. A reporter cuts in before he can exhale. 18 officers appear in that group thread, she says. Hundreds of racist messages, dozens of photos of black residents mocked in custody. In what world is that isolated? The spokesman opens his mouth, reaches for a prepared line, finds nothing that will survive headline scrutiny today. He shuts it again. Cameras zoom in on that wordless moment, the blank stare of a man realizing the script he brought is already useless. The next morning, Chief Carmen Delgado faces the media herself. She stands behind a city seal, flanked by flags and a wall of microphones. What happened to Judge Maurice Green was shameful, she says plainly. A betrayal of this badge and the people it's supposed to protect. She lets that land, but it was not a one-off. It was a symptom of something deeper, something we failed to cut out. Her stare into the cameras is steady, almost defiant. We allowed a sickness to take root, she continues. We looked the other way when jokes went too far, when lines blurred. That stops today, right now, this minute. She outlines sweeping reforms, mandatory bias reviews, outside oversight on major complaints, automatic audits of body cam footage, anonymous reporting hotlines, real consequences for lies in reports. These are not aspirations, she finishes. These are directives, and if anyone in this department can't live with them, they can turn in their badge. Monday at 10, the steps of City Hall look like a movie set. Tripods, vans, cables everywhere. Carmen steps up, notes clutched but unread in her hand. Officers Logan Myers and Christopher Tate have been terminated from this department, effective immediately. She lets the sentence hang. They now face charges including assault, unlawful restraint, filing false reports, and federal civil rights violations. The file has been forwarded to the Department of Justice for additional review and, if appropriate, prosecution there. 6 more officers have been suspended based on their participation in the group chat, she adds, with more likely as the investigation continues. This department now has zero tolerance for racism, zero tolerance for abuse of power, zero tolerance for games played with human lives. These aren't just slogans for posters. These are policies backed by discipline. A forest of microphones leans closer, hungry for missteps. Carmen tightens her grip on the podium and waits for the first question. Chief Delgado, a reporter calls from the front row, can you describe exactly what you saw that night? She could dodge, deflect, lean on ongoing investigation. Instead, she nods once. I saw 2 officers ridicule a man who has spent 3 decades defending the Constitution, she says calmly. They mocked his home, his presence, his worth. They cuffed him on his own block and took a souvenir photo as if he were a trophy, not a human being. They called him a thug, Carmen continues, said black men don't belong in wealthy neighborhoods. They didn't whisper it in a locker room. They said it on body cameras, on radios, in text threads. That man was Judge Maurice Green, a pillar of this city, a man who has sacrificed years of his life for justice. Her voice wavers just once, barely. He deserved better. Every resident deserves better. I intend to spend the rest of my career proving that. 2 weeks later, a different courtroom. Logan and Chris sit at the defense table, faces scrubbed, suits slightly too big, suddenly on the wrong side of the bar. Their wrists are free for now, but their futures aren't. The case is assigned randomly to Judge Helena Park, one of Maurice's longtime colleagues. Fate has a dark sense of humor. Bail comes in higher than their lawyers predicted. Families scramble, second mortgages, emptied savings to keep them out of holding cells, barely. Your Honor, my client was simply following standard protocol for a suspicious subject, Logan's attorney starts. Judge Park's eyebrows lift. What protocol instructs officers to take smiling selfies with a restrained man? She asks. Which training says to broadcast mocking captions to a group thread? What manual authorizes calling a resident a thug because he is black and lives on a nice street? Save the creative arguments for trial counselor. I've watched the footage. So has everyone else. 3 days later, Andre files the civil suit in federal court. Deprivation of rights under color of law, among other counts. He steps in front of the courthouse microphones afterward, tie straight, eyes burning. This case isn't about a payout, he says firmly. My father doesn't need a check from this city. What he needs, what we all need, is change. Real permanent change. He holds up a printout of the infamous selfie, the paper trembling slightly in his hand. Yeah, for 30 years, my father has upheld the law, Andre continues. He's defended the Constitution, sent corrupt officers to prison, freed people who never should have seen the inside of a cell. One ordinary night, 50 feet from his own front door, that same system turned on him. The law he served failed to recognize him as someone worth protecting. His voice sharpens. We're here to make sure it doesn't fail the next man walking home in his own neighborhood. A month later, the community center's auditorium overflows. Folding chairs fill, then walls become standing room. People squeeze into doorways just to listen. Judge Maurice Green walks onto the stage in a simple dark suit. The room drops into a hush, so complete you can hear the air conditioner hum. I've been asked over and over what I want from all this, he begins. He rests both hands on the podium. I can tell you first what I don't want. I don't want revenge, he says. I don't wake up hoping those 2 young men's lives are permanently destroyed, though they nearly destroyed a part of mine. Murmurs ripple, then fade. What I want is painfully simple. I want the next 66-year-old black man taking a late-night walk in his own neighborhood to arrive at his front door without being stopped, questioned, humiliated, or cuffed. That's it. That's the bar. It shouldn't be radical to ask for that. I want the next officer who sees him to pause and actually look, Maurice continues, to see a neighbor, a taxpayer, a grandfather, a human being who just likes cool air at night, not a suspect, not a tally mark on a productivity sheet, not a target to show off in some private chat. His voice deepens. That's what real public safety looks like. Protecting the public, all of it, not just the parts that make you comfortable. For a heartbeat, no one moves. Then someone stands. Then another. Within seconds, the entire room is on its feet. Applause crashing, like surf. People clap until their palms sting, some wiping at tears with their sleeves. The ovation stretches on. 5 full minutes of gratitude, anger, hope, all tangled together fiercely inside that hall. Maurice steps back from the podium, letting it wash over him, feeling the strange weight of being both victim and catalyst in the same story. 6 months later, Maple Drive looks almost unchanged. Same manicured lawns, same tasteful porch lights, same whisper of sprinklers in the dark. Maurice walks alone beneath the street lamps, hands in his pockets, savoring the quiet. The calendar says everything is different now. Policy manuals rewritten, trainings renamed, but his body still remembers that other night. His shoulders tense automatically when headlights appear behind him, more reflex than thought. A lifetime of experience outrunning even a viral video and new reforms. A patrol car turns the corner and eases up the street toward him. Maurice's spine stiffens before he can stop it. Old fear is efficient. The cruiser slows, then stops parallel. The passenger window whirs down. A young woman in a fresh uniform leans toward the opening, brown ponytail tucked neatly under her cap. "Evening, Judge Green," she says. He blinks, surprised. "You know who I am?" "Pretty much everyone does, sir," she answers with a small, sincere smile. "I just wanted to say thank you," she adds. "For what?" Maurice asks, genuinely puzzled. "For how you carried yourself. My academy cohort spent weeks on your case. We watched every angle, read every transcript. We broke down every bad choice those officers made, and every calm decision you made in response." She shrugs lightly. "You showed us what dignity looks like when the system fails you, what patience looks like when the people with guns are the ones doing wrong." Maurice studies her face, earnest, a little nervous, nothing like the swagger from that night. "What's your name, officer?" "Martinez, sir. Angela Martinez. 4 months on the job." He nods slowly. 4 months in means you've got a long stretch ahead, Officer Martinez. She smiles again, a hint of pride beneath the humility. "I hope so, Your Honor. I plan to stick around, do this the right way, not just the easy way, for as long as they'll let me." "Then remember something," he tells her, stepping a little closer so the words land. "That badge on your chest grants real power, life or death power, the authority to take freedom away with a sentence or a gesture." He pauses, making sure she's listening. "But power without respect for the people you're holding it over? That's just violence waiting to happen. Violence with paperwork. Don't ever confuse fear for respect, Officer Martinez. One protects communities, the other just terrorizes them." Martinez absorbs that in silence, then nods once, as if sealing a promise to herself. "I won't forget that, sir," she says. "I swear I won't." A brief quiet stretches between them. Two people linked by a night, neither witness the same way, but both carry. "Have a good evening, Your Honor." "You too, Officer Martinez. Stay safe," Maurice replies. The window hums up, the cruiser rolls forward, and the tension in his shoulders finally starts to uncoil, inch by inch. Maurice resumes his walk. The patrol car's tail lights vanish around the bend, leaving only the soft wash of street lamps. His house comes into view, the familiar white colonial with navy shutters, hydrangeas blooming along the walkway. He's owned it for 27 years and 6 months now, but tonight it somehow feels newly claimed. On the porch, Lillian rocks gently in her chair, a glass of lemonade sweating on the table beside her, eyes fixed down the street for him. "How was the walk tonight?" she calls as he reaches the bottom step. He climbs up, leans over to kiss her cheek, tastes lemon and sugar. "Surprisingly peaceful," he answers. Actually peaceful this time. No patrol cars racing up, no lights flashing, no one questioning whether I belong on my own block. Lillian stands and wraps her arms around him, holding on just a beat longer than usual. She still does that every night, ever since everything happened. "I'm proud of you, Maurice," she murmurs into his shoulder. "For what? For not letting that night turn you into someone angry at the whole world. For taking something ugly and carving something better out of it, even when reliving it must feel like picking at a wound." He chuckles softly, the sound a little tired. "I didn't do it alone, Lil. I had you, Andre, Carmen, half this neighborhood. A lot of people refuse to look away." Inside, the television murmurs from the living room. A news anchor discusses the department's revamped curriculum. Every officer now required to complete something called the Green Protocol, a training module built around Maurice's case. Video clips roll in a corner box as the anchor explains how recruits analyze the footage, write reflections, role-play better decisions. Real change, maybe, not just press releases. Maurice watches from the doorway, one arm around Lillian's shoulders, feeling equal parts weary and cautiously hopeful. "They tried to shrink me that night," he says quietly. "Tried to make me feel like an intruder in my own neighborhood, like I should apologize for existing on this street. Instead, they put a megaphone in my hand." Lillian squeezes his hand. "The whole country heard you, Maurice. Maybe that's enough." He shakes his head gently. "Maybe, maybe not. But at least now they can't pretend they didn't know. Ignorance isn't an option they can hide behind anymore." He looks past the TV, through the front window, down Maple Drive. Same pavement where those cuffs snapped shut, where Carmen's scream tore the night open, where neighbors stepped out of comfort and into witness. For almost 3 decades, this block has been his refuge. For one terrible stretch of minutes, it was something else entirely. Now it's both. A place where he was demeaned and where he stood his ground so loudly the world had to finally listen. "They tried to make you feel small," Lillian repeats softly, "but you ended up making them look small instead. I'm proud of you for that, for not letting their hatred turn you into someone you're not." He pulls her closer, resting his chin on her hair. "If I'd broken," he says, "they'd have used that too. See? Dangerous, unstable, angry. Instead, they have to wrestle with the truth on those recordings, not some story they invented later themselves." On screen, a commentator calls his case a turning point. Another warns that momentum can fade. Maurice knows they're both right. Policies can be renamed back, trainings quietly shortened. The work is never finished. Tomorrow there will be depositions, hearings, meetings with Andre about strategy, more strangers wanting quotes, more old wounds reopen, but tonight, for a few precious hours, he gets to stand in his own living room and feel something close to peace settle over his shoulders. Somewhere out there he knows Logan and Chris are replaying that night in their heads, hearing Carmen scream, seeing their own grins frozen on millions of screens. They're not laughing now, not anywhere. And somewhere else, another older black man is walking home under streetlights, unbothered, because a patrol car rolled by and simply kept going. Maybe the officers inside remembered a training video, or a quote, or a scream on Maple Drive that wouldn't leave their minds. Because sometimes the worst night of your life is what finally jolts a sleepy system awake. The bracelets, the laughter, the sprinting chief, the recording neighbors, ugly pieces that, together, forced something to shift. Maurice reaches for the front door, feels the familiar weight in his palm, and pulls it closed behind him. Tomorrow will bring more cases, more arguments, more chances to push the law toward justice. But tonight, at last, there is quiet. Tonight, peace is earned. Dignity is not a luxury, it's a right. If you are in your 60s or 70s, you've lived long enough to know that respect is not always given, even when it's earned 10 times over. Because Judge Maurice Green had spent 30 years on the appellate bench, writing opinions that shaped the law, defending the Constitution, and holding officers accountable when they crossed the line. Yet on that warm night in Maple Ridge, none of that mattered to the two rookies who saw only an old black man in the wrong neighborhood. For many older black Americans and for anyone who has lived through the civil rights era, that moment feels painfully familiar. You can almost feel the sting of the handcuffs digging into his wrists, not just as metal, but as a message. You don't belong. But dignity is not something that disappears because someone with a badge decides to ignore it. Judge Green stood straight, spoke calmly, gave his full name and address again and again. He did not raise his voice, even when they mocked him. He did not lash out, even when they posed for a grinning selfie with him in chains. At 66, he knew something many elders know deep in their bones. If you let someone else's hatred define you, you lose twice. He refused to give them that victory. For a generation that has watched bus boycotts, fire hoses, and sit-ins, his composure is not weakness. It is a quiet, powerful form of strength, a reminder that your worth does not come from a uniform or a neighborhood or a balance sheet. It comes from the life you have lived and the principles you refuse to abandon, even when you are standing in the street with sore wrists and neighbors watching. Courage and community can interrupt injustice in real time. Many of you remember a time when people whispered, "Don't get involved," and pulled the curtain shut. Maple Ridge shows what happens when people make the opposite choice. Think about Chief Carmen Delgado, kicking off her heels and running barefoot down the street, dress torn, feet bleeding because she recognized the man under those flashing lights. Years earlier, Judge Green had believed her when she testified against corruption in her own department. Now, in her 50s, she was paying that debt forward with every step. For those who have spent a lifetime working twice as hard to prove yourselves, her sprint is a symbol you can feel in your chest. Sometimes leadership means bleeding for the right thing, not just talking about it in a meeting. And Carmen was not alone. Ms. Florence Abernathy, well into her 80s, did not stay behind lace curtains. She stepped onto her porch in her nightgown, lifted her phone, and hit record. She used the one tool an old woman on a dark street had: witness and time. She argued, stalled, and kept those officers talking long enough for the chief to arrive. Her video and the neighbors' clips made it impossible for anyone to claim this was just a misunderstanding. How many of you have seen wrong and told yourselves, "It's not my place"? Florence and Carmen remind us that age does not retire our responsibility. Whether we are carrying a badge, a camera, or a lifetime of hard-earned credibility, we can step forward. Injustice is not only fought later in court. Sometimes it is interrupted in real time by people who simply refuse to look away. One night can spark reforms that outlive us. If you have lived through more than 6 decades of American history, you know that change comes slow, and sometimes not at all. You have heard commissions announced with fanfare and then forgotten. But Maple Ridge did not fade quietly. The body cam footage, the racist group chat, the smiling selfie with a handcuffed judge, those ugly details forced the city and the country to pay attention. Internal Affairs arrived with evidence bags, not excuses. Officers lost badges, not just vacation days. Policies were rewritten. Young recruits now sit in classrooms watching that night from every angle, studying what went wrong and how it should have gone. They even named a training after him, the Green Protocol. Imagine that. What was meant to humiliate an older black man on his own block is now teaching a new generation how not to repeat those sins. And yet, Judge Green is honest about the limits of change, walking under those same streetlights. 6 months later, his shoulders still tense when a cruiser rolls by. Those of you who have buried friends, marched in protests, or watched verdicts on tiny televisions know that trauma doesn't evaporate with a press conference. Transformation is not a switch. It is a long road. But Maurice keeps walking, not just for himself, but for the older man in another city who might get home safely because some officer remembered a line from his case. Power without respect is just violence with paperwork. The legacy we still have time to shape. For those 65 and older, Maple Ridge is not just a viral story, it is a mirror. Many of you have lived through Jim Crow, school integration, Vietnam, women fighting their way into boardrooms and squad cars. You have seen America at its ugliest and at its most hopeful. The question Judge Green's night leaves us with is simple. What kind of legacy do we want to leave behind when our walking days are done? Do we want our grandchildren to inherit a country where a man can be handcuffed outside his own front door with neighbors too afraid to speak? Or a country where chiefs run barefoot, elders film from porches, and officers are trained to see a grandfather instead of a suspect? We may move a little slower now. Our knees may ache, our eyes may need stronger glasses, and our hearing might not be what it once was. We can pick up the phone when we see something wrong, but our voices still matter. Our stories still carry weight. We can write letters, vote, show up at town halls, support leaders like Carmen who tell the truth, and encourage young officers like Angela Martinez who want to wear the badge the right way. The night on Maple Drive reminds us that the fight for dignity does not end with age. It simply changes shape. As long as we are breathing, we still have a role to play in bending the story of this country a little closer toward justice, for ourselves, for our children, and for every elder who just wants to walk home in peace. Friends, after walking through Judge Maurice Green's long night on Maple Drive, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever seen someone treated as if they didn't belong, even in a place they called home? What would you hope your neighbors, your chief, or even you yourself would do in that moment? Share your stories and reflections in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss the next lessons and true-to-life stories we explore together. Your voice matters. Hit the bell so our growing community can learn from your wisdom.